I was in the operating room at Peace Arch Hospital getting ready for a day of surgery, and alongside me was one of my surgical colleagues, and he noted that I had an unusual mole on the left side of my back, and he said, Roy, it looks a little unusual and you should probably get it taken care of.
Cancer journeys can begin in many different ways, with symptoms often appearing to be minor. A seemingly innocent skin mole that starts changing color or size, an annoyingly persistent cough, or inexplicable weight loss. In this special episode of Power to Heal, our sole guest, a doctor himself, has not only personally experienced the sometimes subtle early warning signs of cancer, but also the all-too common heartbreak of a repeat cancer diagnosis after initially believing the disease was in his past. What makes his journey especially poignant is its reminder that cancer can impact anyone, anywhere, anytime, including medical professionals. But this story is also about hope and determination, as an experienced doctor turns his life-saving skills from the operating room to the world of cancer research and promising new treatments. This is The Power to Heal. In this series of podcasts, we'll focus on the many innovative ways Peace Arch Hospital, located in White Rock, British Columbia, Canada, has been an integral part of its community. We'll take you behind the scenes of the hospital's dynamic fundraising arm and talk to those who are instrumental in creating new initiatives to help this important healthcare facility grow and evolve along with the town it serves. Throughout his lengthy career as a noted obstetrician and gynecological surgeon at Peace Arch Hospital, Dr. Roy Jackson has balanced hospital work with an entrepreneurial passion for biomedical research. Now retired from medical duties, Dr. Jackson brings a unique perspective as cancer patient, surgeon, and researcher to his determined advocacy for both innovation in cancer treatments and the philanthropy that drives them forward. In this powerful interview, Dr. Jackson speaks openly about not only the life-altering reality of his cancer diagnosis, but also his unrelenting belief in the potential of new treatments and the necessity of supporting them. Dr. Jackson is joined by Power to Heal host Lance Peverly, a journalist and former editor of the Peace Arch News, and a longtime resident of the White Rock, South Surrey area.
Dr. Jackson, a cancer diagnosis would be frightening for anyone. Is it even more so for a medical professional? After all, you would know with far more detail what was happening to your body.
Absolutely, Lance. Unfortunately, when I was given the diagnosis, I knew almost immediately what it meant. The CT scan that I had at Peace Arch Hospital on the 2nd of November, 2023 was, if I say so in my own words, an absolute disaster. As a physician, if I had seen that CT scan on a patient of mine, I would say that person hasn't got more than 6 months to live. So a real, one of those times in one life were absolutely a game changer and really rocked my life and my family's life.
Yes, that sounds like just a horrible thing to go through. Before we discuss your current condition, can you tell us a little bit about your medical career? For instance, I understand your association with Peace Arch Hospital goes all the way back to the mid-1990s.
Yes, absolutely. And it's a privilege to be able to share my story with you. I'm very proud of it. My story originally dated back to growing up in South Africa, doing my medical school in South Africa and coming to Canada in 1989. And then I did a residency and a specialty training in obstetrics and gynecology at the University of British Columbia. And I completed that in the summer of 1994. And at that time, there was a job available at Peace Arch Hospital in July of 1994. And I interviewed for the job thinking that it might just be a short-term job and that I would spend just a few months at Peace Arch Hospital and working in the community, and then ultimately moved back into the city in Vancouver. And it so happened now, all these years later, 31 years later, 1994 was the beginning of my start of a wonderful affiliation to Peace Arch Hospital.
It sounds like you found a home.
I did, and I've lived in the community for at least the last 10 or 12 years. It's just been very special.
I'm told that in 1996, you and your wife started a small family business that allowed you to embrace your passion for research and innovation in drug development. Take us through this adventure and what it meant to you.
Yes, my wife and I started a business in 1996, and we were looking for a name, and we called it Romich, from Roy and Michelle. Not very unique, but very special to us. And the idea of the business would be really to foster life science innovation. At the heart of always what we've been interested in is, doing whatever we can to support young scientists, young physicians, young entrepreneurs who have a great idea to change healthcare and to change the life sciences. Might be in the form of a drug development, might be digital therapy, might be medical devices. And our idea was really to support some of this innovation and really take it from the bench to the bedside, or take an idea to fruition. And that's what has been the essence of what we've wanted to do with our family business.
Do you know how many people have gone through it with ideas like that you've been able to foster?
Oh, probably over the years, we've been involved in at least, I would say, 20 different ventures that we've supported. Some of them we've just supported with ideas, some of them with money as well, but really wanting to try and make a difference, not only in the local community, but in the wider life science community.
When was the last project you've done? Have you got anything ongoing?
Well, we currently do have some ongoing projects, which primarily have been focused a lot on women's healthcare because of my background in obstetrics and gynecology and our interest in women's healthcare. And fortunately now we have an interest in cancer care. So
Yes.
we have some ongoing projects in those two areas.
Cancer journeys are rarely simple, and yours actually begins back in 2012 as you were changing for the operating room. Can you tell us what happened?
Yes, it's quite a coincidence. I was in the operating room at Peace Arch Hospital getting ready for a day of surgery, and alongside me was one of my surgical colleagues, and he noted that I had an unusual mole on the left side of my back, and he said, Roy, it looks a little unusual and you should probably get it taken care of. So my journey with cancer started in the operating room at that time, which was probably around December 2012, when I first noticed that lesion. And so I had a small biopsy done of that, and that unfortunately turned out to be a melanoma. I then needed a wider resection of the lesion, being a cancer, and I also needed the lymph nodes in my left armpit, my axilla, my sentinel lymph nodes to be removed to be checked for any sign of metastatic disease or cancer that had spread. And so it's very clear in my memory. I remember quite clearly it was Christmas Eve, December 2012, when one of the fantastic Peace Arch surgeons, and I'd love to give him a shout out, Dr. Ed Chang, took the time to do my surgery at Peace Arch Hospital. And I had a great team of the anesthetist and the operating room nurses. On Christmas Eve, I was in the operating room and they did a wide surgical section of the lesion on my back and the nodes in my left armpit. And that was how my cancer journey began.
All at Peace Arch Hospital.
At Peace Arch Hospital.
How did it feel to be on the patient side of the healthcare equation?
It was my first real brush with healthcare on a serious level as a patient. And I think that this speaks to why I'm so proud of Peace Arch Hospital, and that is I trusted Peace Arch Hospital with my own healthcare back in 2012. And I trusted the surgeon, the anesthetist, and the team that I would get the best possible care. And I'm so glad I did, and I'm so proud of the quality of care that I had on that particular day and for the start of my cancer journey.
Well, did you find yourself approaching it almost academically, like you were back in medical school, or were the emotions difficult to ignore?
Yes, I think in some way I did. I mean, at that stage, fortunately, the cancer was relatively early stage, and I did approach it quite academically. And, I also, as physicians often do, I felt somewhat infallible. Physicians don't feel like they can get sick. Physicians feel it's always the patient that gets sick. And so I felt up until that point infallible. And fortunately, the results were good. It was an early stage melanoma, and there was no sign that it had spread beyond the lesion on my back. And so I continued full-time work after that in January of 2013. And I continue to feel that, any further cancer is not going to affect me.
Yes. So surgery, they take out the melanoma, and you were making what you thought was a full recovery.
Absolutely. And I did, back then, once the results came out, I became a patient at the BC Cancer Center. And
Yes.
I joke and say, I'm not a proud member to be of the BC Cancer, but unfortunately, I joined BC Cancer at that time as a patient after many years having referred my own patients there. So it was a real turnaround experience. And BC Cancer started to look after me, and I went for my regular checkups. And at that stage, the checkups were primarily checking on my skin. And I did not need any further checkups at that stage. There was no requirement for any imaging. And so I continued with my life as a busy obstetrician gynecologist and also helping my wife with our family business as we continued from January of 2013 onwards.
According to the Canadian Dermatology Association, melanoma was the 7th most common type of newly diagnosed cancer in 2019 for both males and females. More troubling, while incidence rates for some forms of cancer are dropping each year, occurrences of melanoma continue to increase annually. In Canada, the lifetime risk of melanoma for men is now 1 in 59, while for women, it's 1 in 73. The association cites a lack of awareness of this disease and its tendency to appear in hard-to-see areas on the back, the latter of which was the case for our guest, Dr. Jackson, as two of the main reasons melanoma often goes undetected in its early stages. The Canadian Dermatology Association also notes that while most moles are similar in appearance, melanomas will look or feel different or may change in appearance compared with other moles. The CDA recommends that any such occurrences should be checked by a dermatologist or your family doctor as soon as possible.
Dr. Jackson, after all those years, you received the awful news that your cancer was back. What were the early symptoms that led you to get tested again?
Yeah, it's quite an interesting story in that it was the summer of 2023, and I was very fit and active and what I thought to be healthy. My family had invested in a treadmill and a bike at home during COVID, and we were very active on the treadmill and the bike, and I was working out and I was riding the bike and I was on the treadmill, and I started to develop a little bit of a cough. And I thought that the cough was probably just a bit of reflux from some reflux disease. And then in addition to the cough, I started to develop a bit of discomfort or pain on the right side of my back, my right flank area. And I attributed the discomfort to probably being a bit stiff from being too active on the treadmill and on the bike. So I attributed some of that stiffness to that, not thinking anything much of it. But fortunately, in hindsight, I decided to pursue it. And it started with an X-ray in around about October of 2023. And at that time, the X-ray was equivocal, did not show anything sinister. And a few weeks later, I happened to be in the radiology department at Peace Arch Hospital. And as a physician at Peace Arch Hospital, one of the beauties about it is it's a family. You get to know everyone. So I knew the radiologist really well. And I walked into the radiology department one day and I said to one of the radiologists, Dr. Jeff Hagel, great guy. I said, Jeff, do me a favor, just have a look at that X-ray of mine. And he looked at it and he said, Roy, that X-ray, something about it just doesn't sit well with me. I think we should get you a CT scan. And so I can't thank someone like Dr. Hagel enough for the fact that he helped me arrange and advocate for me to go ahead and get that CT scan done, which was ultimately done on the 2nd of November, 2023.
I'd like to take just a moment to talk about my appreciation for you sharing this with us. My own father, an elementary principal in the Surrey School District, was diagnosed with melanoma in the early 90s, and he was a big believer in talking frankly about it, making it a little less scary for others. Unfortunately, his metastasized and he died in 1995. But in his last week in palliative care at Peace Arch, he made me and my brothers commit to keeping a watch on our own skin and getting tested. Had he not, I think it likely that my own melanoma diagnosis not long after I became a father a couple years later, and a second diagnosis again just last year, would not have been discovered in time. I take a cue from my dad and talk openly about it, hoping it might just save a life the way he saved mine, and I so commend you for sharing.
Thank you very much. And it's just really fascinating to hear about your own diagnosis and, your willingness to talk about it. I find personally by talking about it, my aim is twofold. Number one is to give people hope that obviously early diagnosis can make a big difference before it spread. But in my own situation where the melanoma had spread to my lungs, my mediastinum, and my adrenal gland, stage 4 metastatic melanoma, serious. But at the same time, the new treatments, which I'm really passionate about, the new treatments, the new research that has led to these treatments in cancer care can give patients hope that even if it's not necessarily picked up early, or if it does spread, there are treatments, so it can give patients hope.
Can you tell us a little bit about these treatments or medications and how they were developed?
Absolutely. And, my awareness of these treatments and my story has given me the inspiration to share my story because the two medications that I've received, which are game changers in cancer care, the two treatments, one was developed by a Japanese researcher and another by an American researcher, and both of them won the combined Nobel Prize in 2018 for the two drugs. The one drug that I get is called ipilimumab, and the other one is nivolumab. And both of these drugs are immunotherapy, or what is referred to as checkpoint inhibitors. And these drugs are incredibly smart, the way they work, and I receive them as an intravenous infusion. And I am currently still receiving that through the BC Cancer Center. And these drugs work by harnessing my own immune system to kill the cancer. So the drugs themselves are not actually killing the cancer. The drugs are actually turning off the brakes on my immune system. So my immune system was working at about 200 times normal because the drugs are preventing my immune system from slowing down. A key component of the immune system are your T cells. So my T cells are what is actively killing the cancer. So my own immune system is utilized to kill the cancer. And the interesting thing is the original science was done on this in the area of melanoma. And now these drugs are being used in 20 different cancers.
Not just melanoma, not just skin cancer.
Not just melanomas, in multiple different cancers. Immunotherapy has become a game changer. And so there's a lot of thought that as a result of these drugs, metastatic cancer can actually go from being a death penalty to being a chronic disease. And for the first time, thanks to drugs like this, oncologists are using the word cured, which is very unusual. And, right now I'm in a situation where I'm just grateful for every day I get. But at the same time, I'm holding my hope that thanks to immunotherapy, I am a believer that I can have what they refer to as a chronic disease.
This all ties in your focus on biotech. Do you think research in this area should be integrated with clinical care?
Absolutely. And it's not just me that's promoting this concept of research and translational medicine, taking an idea from the bench to the bedside. But my story and the fact that I'm alive today, I believe, highlights the need for research. And we need to integrate it in clinical care. And we do this at Peace Arch Hospital in many aspects of the clinical care that happens at Peace Arch Hospital. And we need to continue to do that. We need to continue to advocate for clinical trials and for research that's going to improve outcomes. And they've done some studies that have demonstrated that if research is embedded in clinical care, you actually have better outcomes in that institution. And both the provincial and federal government in Canada is really very much promoting this concept. And I think it's just fantastic.
Is there a way to get the word out to other hospitals, or is that happening right now?
I think it's happening right now. It happens fairly slowly because, as you well know, we've got such a health crunch in terms of physicians in both BC and Canada that a lot of physicians are just struggling to keep their head above water. But at the same time, I think through avenues like your podcast and avenues like this, we've got to get the word out to the general public, to patients, and to people involved in health administration that we need to continue to strive to do clinical research, clinical trials, and make innovation happen.
We haven't touched on early detection yet in terms of cancer prevention. With the changing landscape of new drugs and treatments, do you see identifying cancers before they spread as still the best first line of defense?
Absolutely. And I think what's changing dramatically in cancer care, not only in melanoma, but other cancers, is going to be genetics. And the ability to pick up cancer very early on, not just by imaging, but now there is revolutionary testing, such as what's called a liquid biopsy, where you take a sample of blood from a person, and the sample of blood, through genetic sequencing, next generation sequencing, you can pick up what's called circulating tumor DNA, or abbreviated to ctDNA. And that DNA is a very, very small sample representative of a possible early stage cancer.
Is this something that's being incorporated in our blood testing when we go to the third-party labs down the street? Or
not yet, and that's one of the problems. A lot of these tests are not only expensive, a lot of these tests are not yet as accurate as we would like them to be. Some of them carry, unfortunately, false positives and false negatives. But the exciting part is, because of innovation and because of translational medicine and the need for us to support the researchers and the scientists, we need to get these tests even better and better. And I believe we can do this in Canada, and we can do some of this work in BC in our home hospitals. And I think that tests like this demonstrate that not only early detection through imaging, but also early detection through a blood test like a liquid biopsy.
With skin cancer, I'm assuming skin cancers are perhaps the easier ones to detect, at least visually. If that's so, can you walk us through the various types of skin cancer and what to watch for?
Yes, I mean, fortunately, you can see a lesion early, and I think the impetus on the public is, if they do have a unusual looking mole and they're worried about it, is to get their healthcare practitioner, be it their family doctor or be it their nurse practitioner, to check that mole. And there's various technical advances made to the instrument that's used to check that mole, which is dermoscopy. And the beauty about it now is that the ability to harness and capture that image and to share that image with specialists is available in BC. And once one has identified an unusual looking mole, then it's really up to the healthcare provider to do a biopsy of that lesion, and for the pathologist to analyze it and rule it out as being a melanoma. Melanoma continues still to be the most devastating of all skin cancers. And the kind of melanoma that I've had is a cutaneous melanoma. You can get other types of melanoma. You can get an ocular melanoma in the eye, which unfortunately doesn't respond as well to immunotherapy. But yes, cutaneous melanoma is still the one that we want to prevent.
Did you know the Peace Arch Hospital Foundation invests over $2 million annually to ensure Peace Arch Hospital has the most up-to-date and critically needed equipment and facilities? These state-of-the-art devices and operating rooms, generously supported by our donors, also help attract and retain top medical professionals dedicated to providing the best care possible for the White Rock, South Surrey community. And while general donations to the foundation are always welcome, you can also support the purchase of specific items through our capital equipment donor wish list. Visit pahfoundation.ca to learn more.
In addition to biotech research, women's healthcare is also something that's very important to you. Earlier, we were talking about your long career as a gynecologist and obstetrician at Peace Arch Hospital. The hospital's foundation has supported the purchase of state-of-the-art endoscopic equipment as well as a dedicated women's operating room. What kind of impact do things like this have on your surgical role?
Yes, I'm glad you brought that up, because I did spend so much of my life advocating for improved women's health. And I'm proud to say that the Peace Arch Hospital and the Peace Arch Hospital Foundation always supported women's health in that way. In my role as an obstetrician gynecologist in the community and at Peace Arch Hospital, not only did I spend time delivering babies at odd hours, and I could tell you there were many 2:00 mornings where I was at Peace Arch Hospital, I was probably one of the few physicians remaining in the hospital delivering a baby, either a normal birth, or it might be a forceps-assisted birth, or it might be a cesarean section on an emergency basis. And the new maternity unit, which I was privileged to work in, I had the opportunity to work in the old maternity unit at Peace Arch Hospital. And again, thanks to Peace Arch Hospital Foundation, I had the privilege of working in the new unit for many years. And that not only made it so easy for us to work in that environment, but also enabled us to attract a fantastic team of healthcare practitioners, whether it be nurses or midwives or family doctors doing maternity care. Thanks to the foundation, we had an environment that was really conducive to working hard and doing the best possible in maternity care. At the same time, not only in maternity care, but at Peace Arch Hospital, we provided fantastic gynecological services. And, we did a lot of surgeries such as hysterectomy, removing of ovarian cyst, checking for ovarian cancer, checking for uterine cancer, for vaginal and cervical cancer. And a lot of those surgeries that we did at Peace Arch Hospital were carried out in the operating room. And in order to do those in a safe manner and in a manner such that it was level to a global standard, we were able to rely on the equipment, especially the endoscopic equipment that Peace Arch Hospital provided with the help of the Peace Arch Hospital Foundation. In addition to that, the new operating rooms that I had the privilege of working in, again, state-of-the-art operating rooms that not only really contributed to going to work in a fantastic environment, but improved the camaraderie and improved the sentiment amongst the operating room team, which is so crucial to getting good outcomes. So really, my hats off go to the foundation for the work they did over all the years that I was affiliated with Peace Arch Hospital.
You mentioned the healthcare staff being attracted to this up-to-date equipment. How do they hear about it? How do we attract the best?
Well, I think a lot of that is word of mouth. And in addition to that, I know that several sessions are put on during the year where there are physician champions, nursing champions that have an opportunity to show potential donors and part of the Peace Arch Hospital family, some of the equipment that is now available that's been able to make a difference in people's lives who have healthcare procedures done at Peace Arch Hospital.
Bring us up to the present now. Tell us a little bit about your current activities. You stopped working in 2023, I believe, and I hear you're just as busy as ever.
Well, you're right. I like to keep busy and I like to make a difference. And I am now interested in doing whatever I can to give back to the community that I've looked after one-on-one. So I am now involved in opportunities, primarily volunteer opportunities, where I can do what I love doing and ultimately helping people. So I've been doing some volunteering of my time with the BC Cancer Foundation and various organizations that are making a difference to healthcare in British Columbia. We have such a robust group of life science entrepreneurs. We've got organizations like Life Sciences BC. I've recently started an organization called the Fraser Valley Life Science Connector, where I'm trying my best to bring our physician community into the fold of life science innovation. And really, to me, I just like to introduce people. And by introducing people, if I can make a difference, then ultimately I help patients through better networks. I feel very rewarded.
This sounds like a full-time job on its own.
Thank you. Yes, it's certainly keeping me busy.
May we ask about your current health?
Yeah, fortunately, I am responding to these new immunotherapy drugs that we were talking about. I have had some adverse events. I recently, in the last few months, lost my hair, so I've had to get used to this new look. It's hard to believe that I've been on immunotherapy for 17 months, and I just lost my hair in the last 2 or 3 months. So I'm sporting a new look, but I'm told by these young guys who have this no hair look that it makes me younger. It's also enabled me.
It's very popular.
Very popular, and it's also allowed me to get a new selection of hats So I'm fortunate to do that. And I've also, very proud of my family and the support that my family's given me during these times. I have recently got a new granddaughter who she's now 13 months old, and she was born at Peace Arch Hospital. And at one stage, my daughter and my son-in-law were debating where to have their baby. And I am so glad that we chose to have our baby at Peace Arch Hospital, and the care we got was 10 out of 10. I can't speak highly enough for the quality of care that we were fortunate to receive. And again, it's just fantastic. And so I'm just very proud of the hospital.
Well, I think I know the answer to this, but do you remain optimistic about not only your own condition, but about the possibility for new amazing discoveries in cancer treatments?
Absolutely. And I think that, I'm very optimistic for the role that Peace Arch Hospital can play, but I'm also optimistic for the role that our homegrown researchers, our scientists, our clinicians can make a difference in improved cancer care. And I think the future is bright. In my case, my interests are not only in women's healthcare, and we're seeing some great innovation in women's healthcare, but also in cancer care. And I think the future is going to be in precision oncology, where these new drugs not only are going to be able to help use the immune system to kill off the cancer, but able to avoid some of the side effects and adverse events that people like myself have had to deal with. So I'm very excited about the future, and I hope that we can just give people who are given an awful diagnosis like stage 4 cancer, that we can give them some hope, and their family some hope that things can improve.
I really do think that you're going to impact other families. That
I do hope I can leave a legacy and make a difference. I feel that I helped a lot of women in the community. There is a Facebook group called South Rock Moms. And when I did stop working, I was fortunate that some of the people I know shared some of the comments. And it just made me warm my heart that, I've been able to achieve what I have. I hope I could continue to make a difference.
Dr. Jackson, we wish you all the best as your cancer journey continues. And thank you for sharing your time and insights with us.
Thank you very much.
The Power to Heal podcast, presented by Peace Arch Hospital Foundation in White Rock, British Columbia, takes you behind the scenes of an innovative hospital foundation and introduces you to the team who find new and sometimes surprising ways to engage with the local community and help fund the best healthcare possible in the region. Since 1988, the foundation has raised over $250 million for capital projects, medical equipment, and community health programs. Its number one priority is the prudent stewardship of your gifts and the resulting positive impact on patients and medical staff at Peace Arch Hospital and the entire White Rock South Surrey community. Peace Arch Hospital Foundation, where innovation comes to life in so many ways. The simple act of giving is truly transformational. Every dollar we receive is enhancing healthcare in this community, whether it's supporting our capital infrastructure, the purchase of essential medical equipment, or funding a wellness program like stroke recovery, or a children's club to encourage healthy habits and active play. Our wide range of giving options includes monthly donations, an increasingly popular and convenient choice that makes the greatest impact on your community hospital. Just sign up once, and the rest is automatic. And that includes receiving a consolidated tax receipt at the end of the year. But no matter what giving option you choose, it all matters, and it all makes a difference. Be sure to subscribe to Power to Heal wherever you get your favorite podcasts. Each episode brings you inspiring stories about the Peace Arch Hospital Foundation and its innovative approach to supporting better healthcare throughout the White Rock South Surrey community. Thanks for listening.
Another Everything Podcast production. Visit everythingpodcast.com, a division of Pattison Media. Subscribe wherever you get your podcast.